Jitago John Kimani na de Strathmore School.
Jina langu ni Justin Omondi na nimeelimishwa kwa shule ya msingi ya Strathmore.
Assalamu alaikum. Magaigi wa Ayub Abdullahi. School of Strathmore Kujira.
你好，我的名字是欧文，我在 Strathmore School。
Language is something we use every day. We greet our friends, we talk to teachers, and we send messages. But across many homes today, something is quietly changing. The languages spoken by our grandparents are slowly disappearing. So we begin to ask ourselves a simple question: are we losing our languages?
My name is Christian Owino. I'm in grade 7A Strathmore School, and I mostly speak English and Kiswahili, of which I use English most of the time to communicate with my friends. My mother tongue is Luo, but unfortunately I can't speak it.
My mom is Chinese and my dad's Kenyan. My mom actually made quite the bold decision to let me learn Chinese before I did English studies. She'd spend many hours teaching me Chinese by herself. She'd get the learning materials, and make sure I'm able to say everything in Chinese, and then I moved on to English. Unfortunately, I can't speak my dad's language, which is Kalenjin, but I'm striving to make an effort to try learn it.
My name is John Kimani. I have the pleasure of being in Strathmore School. I speak 3 languages: my mother tongue, which is Kikuyu, English, and Swa. I speak English with my friends and Kikuyu with my family. I mainly grew up learning Kikuyu from my parents and relatives.
My name is Aaron Acosta and I'm from Strathmore School. I speak English, Tagalog, and some French. I am from Philippines and my ethnic is Filipino. I usually converse with my parents and friends in English. My mother tongue is Tagalog, but I was born in Kenya and I was raised around an English community, so I couldn't really experience the Tagalog experience.
My name is Ken Asike Akelo, and I am an agroecologist by profession. I speak 4 or 5 languages. The ones that I'm really fluent in are Luya, English, Kiswahili. I speak a bit of French and Luo. I'm working on my Luo. But the first 3, English, Luya, and Kiswahili, I'm very, very fluent in them.
My name is Damien Fernandez. I'm from grade 9 from Strathmore School, and I am actually part Indian, first from Goa, and my mother is Kikuyu from Kenya. But I speak English with my friends and also as within my family. So my father is from Goa in India, and my mother is from here, Kikuyu. But sadly, due to my whole community being English-speaking community, I haven't really invested in conversing in my indigenous languages.
As you can see in the modern world, we are losing our traditional and cultural languages due to upbringing or maybe even just laziness from some of us.
Yes, I do speak my mother tongue fluently, and I believe that many young people prefer English and Swahili to their mother tongue because of how they were brought up not learning it and not hearing it. I sometimes do feel embarrassed speaking my mother tongue because, the current generation ridicules people who speak their mother tongue. They see it as primitive.
I would go back to when I was in school. We used to have something called a disc. So when you would be fine speaking Swahili especially, and our mother tongue, on the days when we were not supposed to, we would be given a disc. And I don't even recall a day when we were allowed to speak our mother tongue in school. It was forbidden, completely forbidden. And it was made such a bad experience that you would be ashamed for it. So you'd carry the disc the whole day and everybody would be like, oh, there goes the girl that was speaking her native language. And so we demonized our native language. And from that, we grew up knowing that native languages are bad. So we will be punished when we speak it.
Listening to our parents and grandparents, we began to learn something important. Language is more than just communication. It carries stories, it carries memories. And when a language is lost, part of a culture goes with it.
My name is Wangare Grace. I am a performance storyteller and I'm also an author, mostly of children's books. Stories were told in the mother tongue because they were being told by the grandparents, the grandchildren. So in that kind of setting, everybody who was involved there understood the language. And also, stories were also a way of teaching. So it was also a way for the younger ones to grasp language. So what is the story about? Is it people working in the field? So what terms are used in the field?
I honestly believe, like, it came to me actually as a realization, really, like, not so long ago, after I had a conversation with one of my family members, and I realized how deep and how, like, powerful a tie of indigenous communication could be. Like, even though, like, you have a cousin and you never even knew about them, if you could speak the same language, you've already bonded much faster than if you had spoken different languages.
And I don't blame a lot of kids or young adults who don't speak their native language, because that's what was pushed in school. And then when we came back home, our parents would speak to us in English or in Swahili. And so there was no room for us to speak our native languages. So to an extent, it's not the children's fault, or it's not the teenagers or adults' fault. It all goes down to our parents. And from our parents, it's also linked to colonialism, the impact of colonialism on them, you know, where you had to speak or dress like the Britons, for example, who colonized Kenya. You had to speak and dress like the Britons for you to look like one of them, or for you to look like you're at the helm, you've made it.
Yes, I do think it is important to preserve our indigenous languages, and if we do lose them, I don't think we can get them back, as it's our sense of pride, community pride, and pride as a country. So losing it would be detrimental.
If our indigenous languages disappeared, I think, like, we wouldn't really know much about our family, like our history, where we come from.
We have even already lost some stories and some languages. For instance, you might know that the Suba language is one of the endangered languages. We have very few people alive who are speaking the language due to assimilation when the Suba began living with the Luo community. So this is actually happening, and something else that we're also losing the different versions of stories from the different communities.
Actually, I talked to my grandfather about this, and he gave me a Kikuyu book. So I'll try to study it so I can learn a bit of Kikuyu. I've also been talking to my dad. He's been telling me about my lineage on the other side of the family. Like, I'll go visit India, of course, very soon, so I can also learn the culture and language there.
I think it's important to preserve our indigenous languages for cultural purposes, because there are things that we can express or describe in our indigenous languages that have no equivalent in English. And there's also the aspect of diversity.
But the question remains, can these languages survive in the modern world?
It is really, really important. I can't stress the importance of mother tongue, because one thing is that language is not just a language of communication. Language communicates culture. So it reflects on the culture that you come from. Language is a bearer of values and morals. So a lot of times the language that you are speaking doesn't just come with words. What values are expected in carrying this language? It is also about family history. For instance, what name do you carry in your mother tongue? You know, Otieno is not just a name. It has a meaning behind it. Wangare is not just a name, it means something. So if you're called Chebet or Kipkorir or you're called Mwende, what is the meaning of your name? What is the history behind your name? And if you can't speak your language, you really cannot be able to express this.
Yes, I do think that it is important to preserve the indigenous languages, because it gives a sense of patriotism to your country. Also, it preserves some of the story and the teachings of the language. If the languages were lost, then I think the stories of the past and the teachings will be all gone, because our ancestors had worked hard to achieve those information.
It's important that we learn our languages because it enables us to talk with people from various backgrounds with no barriers. I think it's quite important because it gives me quite the opportunity. Like whenever I go to China, I'm able to speak with the residents there, the shopkeepers there. When I'm in Kenya, I can still converse with them.
One thing that I find very, very impressive about African and Kenyan children is that all of us speak at least 2 or more languages. So, for parents, first and foremost, I know that we pressure our children into speaking English the moment they go to school because we think that, by them learning English and speaking English very well, then it is more, it's more civilized. They're likely to be more successful. But learning your mother tongue does not in any way impede you in your academics. In fact, research shows that children who learn basics the first years of school in their mother tongue understand it much, much better.
And then there's also the aspect of native languages contributing to conservation. Now that I'm an agroecologist, I like to bring out that. Back in our native language, we have totems. For example, there are tribes or clans that can't eat an elephant, for example. There are tribes that cannot eat a whale, a hippo, So when they swear, when people say, oh, God forbid, they're like, whoa, oh, the elephant I cannot touch. Oh, the whatever I cannot touch. Or the hippo I cannot touch. Because, let me say it in Kimanyala, they say, Musiroko injofu, I have no equivalent of it in English, by the way, but I know it in Kimanyala. So that allowed communities to preserve and conserve their forests, their wild animals, because they said, okay, this is our totem. We cannot harm an elephant. We cannot harm the hippos. So what happened? The hippo populations thrived. The elephant populations thrived because they were revered within certain native communities. So having the ability to speak the native language then allows you to understand those cultural nuances, what was happening in our communities and what was important.
And to the young people, I know, and this, as a parent, I have seen this happening, is that sometimes they think that your mother tongue is not very cool. So as a teenager, you're thinking, oh, if guys hear me speaking Kikuyu or the Luo, they might think that, I'm a shagmodos, I'm a rural, I'm not very cool or very civilized. But let me tell you one thing, in the future, in the next 5 or 10 years, that might actually be the thing that sets you apart from your peers, whether in the world of academics, whether in the social spaces, or even when you're looking for work. For instance, I have friends who live in the western parts of the world who actually make a living away from what they have studied, make a living doing translations. So you never know, learning that language might be the one thing that actually sets you apart from your peers.
As we have seen, languages do not disappear in a single day. They fade slowly, one conversation at a time. But they can also survive in the same way, in our stories, in our conversations, in the words we choose to speak. The future of these languages is not written in the past, but it is written by us.
再见。
So I'm Kamba, and if you told me to speak, it'd be a distressing tale for me. I could say one word like watcha, but that's not the pronunciation, my bad.